Every morning, millions of Americans wake up clinging to the same cheap ritual, a jar of instant coffee and the thin hope it might be enough to carry them through another day. But what if that comfort is a lie? What if the thing you trust to keep you alive is the very thing quietly wearing you down? Consumer watchdog tests have revealed that many bargain instant coffees sold across the United States contain less than 5% real coffee. The rest is a murky cocktail of roasted soy grits, scorched corn husks, caramel dye, and synthetic coffee aroma chemicals never grown in any field. Factories are pumping out black sludge that smells more like burnt plastic than breakfast, and older Americans on fixed incomes are swallowing it by the spoonful. What happens inside those instant coffee factories would make you spit your mug out on the spot. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today, we're going inside the instant coffee factory, and once you see how it's made, you will never drink it again. The morning ritual that's poisoning you. That jar on your counter sits there like a loyal old mutt, quietly waiting to be scooped, stirred, and swallowed. The one thing in your kitchen that never complains when the rent's late or your knees ache like rusted hinges. You twist off the lid, breathe in the warm, familiar scent, and for a fleeting second, it feels like safety. But that comfort is a trick, and the trick is killing you. Behind that cheery, 100% pure coffee grin, the factories don't look like sunny coffee farms. They look like haunted refineries, pumping black sludge through steel pipes, the air stinking of burnt starch and chemical smoke. Consumer watchdogs have found that many bargain instant coffees in the US contain less than 5% real coffee. The rest is roasted soy grits, scorched corn husks, caramel dye, and synthetic coffee essence. Floor sweepings in disguise. One whistleblower even described moldy husks shoveled off warehouse floors, sprayed with fake aroma oil, and bagged as coffee. It's not just filth, it's profit. Real beans cost over $2 per pound. Soy costs pennies. Swapping beans for filler can boost profits by over 400%. That jar isn't your friend. It's their slot machine, and every sip rings their jackpot bell. The dirty core. That jar on the shelf at Walmart or Dollar General might sparkle like a promise, but peel your eyes past the shine, and you'll see something far darker than morning comfort. You imagine sun-kissed beans roasted to perfection, ground into magic dust to help you push through another day of aching joints and overdue bills. But if you could rip off the shiny label and trace its path back through the supply chain, the picture would curdle in your stomach. What fills many of those jars isn't the soul of coffee, it's the carcass of it. Lab tests on bargain instant coffees across the US have uncovered a shocking truth. Some contain as little as 5% real coffee solids. The rest is a bitter brown masquerade, roasted soy grits, scorched cornmeal, cereal husks, caramel dye, and synthetic coffee flavor oil that's never met a coffee plant in its life. It's not an accident, it's legal sorcery. Under America's slack labeling rules, if there's even a whisper of coffee present, companies are allowed to declare the whole thing coffee. And so they do. Screaming 100% pure coffee on the front in billboard letters while burying natural flavors and malt extract in microscopic print on the back. Older shoppers juggling high grocery prices and fixed incomes rarely notice. They just see the $2 sticker, smile faintly, and drop it in the cart, thinking they've scored a little victory against a world that keeps raising prices and lowering wages. But that low price is not a blessing. It's the smoking gun. Real roasted coffee costs about $4 to $6 per pound wholesale. Roasted soy runs under 50 cents. Replacing beans with soy balloons profit margins by over 700%, and the executives know exactly who they're milking. Tired, working-class Americans, too exhausted to question what's really in their cup. And it's not just a few shady outliers cutting corners in the shadows. In a quiet FDA inspection of a Pennsylvania instant coffee plant, regulators found coffee extract tanks filled mostly with defatted soy flour and maltodextrin sprayed with artificial aroma. The plant was cranking out private label coffee for discount chains across the country. Internal emails unearthed during the probe were chilling. Managers ordered workers to keep real bean ratio below 10% to control cost, and to boost aroma oil to mask flavor drift. This wasn't some accidental slip-up. It was the blueprint. That same year, an Illinois food testing lab purchased 15 random jars of bargain instant coffee from gas stations, dollar stores, and big box retailers. Only 4 out of 15 tested above 50% real coffee content. Several contained more cellulose fiber than coffee, literal ground-up plant scraps closer to sawdust than beans. One so-called classic roast contained 0 detectable caffeine, meaning it likely had never been coffee at all, and yet it sat on the same shelf beside Folgers and Nescafé, indistinguishable to the average shopper except for the price tag. How do they get away with it? Through smoke and chemistry. Once the cheap fillers are roasted until they're nearly black, they mimic the look of coffee. A dash of caramel coloring deepens them to espresso brown. Then the powder gets misted with synthetic aroma compounds, often manufactured in sprawling chemical plants in New Jersey and Texas, engineered to smell like roasted beans. When you crack the jar, your nose gets seduced. Your brain whispers, "Coffee." Your tongue, still half asleep before the morning shift, or while your social security check barely covers rent, just gulps it down without questioning. And that's exactly what these corporations are counting on. They call it economy blend, value roast, breakfast classic. But what it really is fraud in a jar. Not coffee, not nourishment, just brown filler dressed up like hope. And the worst part? The fraud doesn't end with the label. Because when you see how these fake blends are manufactured, inside the instant coffee factories themselves, you'll understand why even the rare real beans inside don't stay safe for long. How they make it. A factory tour from hell. If you could step through the locked steel doors of a bargain brand instant coffee factory, you'd walk out a different person. And probably never touch a jar again. Forget the TV commercials showing golden beans tumbling through sunbeams like tiny miracles. The real air inside these facilities doesn't smell like roasted coffee at all. It hits you like a punch. Burnt rubber tangled with stale cereal, warm motor oil, and something sharp and chemical that makes your throat tighten as if you swallowed a spark plug. This is what millions of Americans, especially the exhausted, the broke, and the invisible, are spooning into their cups every single morning, thinking it's helping them get through the day. The process doesn't even start with coffee beans. It begins with towering mountains of filler grains, soy grits, cracked corn, rice hulls, barley chaff, the kind of stuff you'd expect to see shoveled into livestock troughs, not coffee mugs. Forklifts dump these raw ingredients into colossal steel silos big enough to hide a school bus. Conveyor belts drag the dry mix into rotary roasters the size of mobile homes, where they're scorched until they turn black and brittle. The goal isn't flavor, it's disguise. Roasting burns away the identity of whatever's inside, leaving behind generic brown carbon that looks like coffee but tastes like campfire ash. If any real beans are used at all, they're tossed in as a token gesture, maybe 5 or 10%, just enough for the lawyers to sleep at night and the marketing team to slap "made with real coffee" on the label. Then comes the part no commercial will ever show you. The slurry tanks. After roasting, this charred blend is ground to dust and mixed with scalding water in massive open-top vats that look more suited for oil refineries than food. Each tank holds thousands of gallons of black sludge so thick it moves like tar. The surface gleams with oil slicks while husk shards, grit, and the occasional roasted insect bob along. Workers in plastic boots stand on catwalks and stir the mix with steel paddles as overhead pipes hiss steam to keep it from solidifying. The stench is unforgettable, sour, metallic, like burned tires drowned in pancake syrup. That slurry is then pumped through high-pressure spray dryers, towering cylinders where it's blasted into 500-degree air. In seconds, the droplets shrivel into dry granules that fall like black snow into bins below. The industry calls this atomizing the extract. Workers call it the soot storm. What comes out isn't fragrant or pleasant. It smells like warm cardboard soaked in ashes. But this is where the illusion is built. The dead gray powder gets misted with artificial aroma oil, a lab-engineered perfume brewed in chemical plants in New Jersey and Louisiana. These oils use compounds like furfuryl mercaptan, a sulfur byproduct of petroleum refining, to mimic the scent of roasted beans. One spritz is enough to fool your brain. When you crack the jar at home, that synthetic smell tricks your nose, and your brain insists, coffee. You'll never know you're actually smelling scorched grain dust and soy ash in costume. Even the color is faked. If the powder comes out too pale, they mix in caramel color E150C, the same additive used in cheap sodas and flagged in California as a possible carcinogen. It creates the deep mahogany tone people expect from dark roast. But that darkness isn't richness, it's paint. And the filth doesn't end at the recipe. Former workers at several Midwestern instant coffee plants have admitted that spilled powder is swept off the floor and dumped back into production, along with whatever else got swept up. Dust, hair, dead beetles. Because the spray drying kills everything, management calls it sanitary. What they mean is cheaper, every ounce counts, even the grime. That jar in your kitchen isn't holding coffee, it's holding theater. Instant coffee isn't brewed and dried. It's manufactured, perfumed, dyed, and disguised like a plastic toy painted to look like wood. It only pretends to be food. And yet every day, millions of working-class Americans stirred this factory soot into boiling water and call it breakfast, never knowing they're swallowing not energy, not comfort. Just the cheapest industrial waste corporations can legally dye brown. How corporate greed fuels this scam. If you want to understand why your morning coffee has been hollowed out into flavored ash, don't bother looking at the beans. Look at the balance sheets. The rot didn't creep into this industry by mistake. It was engineered brick by executives who would rather burn the soul out of coffee than sacrifice a single cent from their quarterly bonuses. As global bean prices shot up over the past decade, the instant coffee giants quietly rewrote their entire playbook around one single obsession. Keep profits climbing, no matter what ends up in your cup, your body, or your bloodstream. Coffee isn't some humble corner store commodity anymore. It's a $100 billion global empire, and the United States is its golden goose. Americans drink more than 400 million cups every single day, and over a third of that is instant. This isn't the handcrafted pour-over you see hipsters fawning over on Instagram. This is the plastic jug sludge stacked like bricks at Dollar General, Walmart, and Family Dollar. Brands built with laser precision to hook working-class households and older Americans living on fixed Social Security checks. The executives know their marks. Retirees who pinch pennies at checkout, warehouse workers whose knees sound like popcorn, folks juggling 2 jobs and eating canned soup by the light of overdue electric bills. They know you want cheap, so they hand you something cheap, then quietly charge you full price for it. But when the real price of beans climbed, skyrocketing more than 60% between 2020 and 2022, thanks to Brazilian droughts and global shipping meltdowns, these companies were cornered. Either raise prices and lose their most vulnerable customers, or cheat. They chose to cheat. Leaked internal emails from a private label coffee supplier in Minnesota spelled it out in black and white. Managers ordered staff to cut bean content to preserve margins, swapping in soy grits, corn husks, and what they blandly called neutral cereal solids. They even instructed workers to boost aroma oil to compensate for flavor drift, meaning flood the fake mix with lab-made perfume so it would still smell like coffee even as the beans disappeared. This wasn't corporate negligence, it was corporate policy. They weren't selling coffee anymore, they were selling the illusion of coffee, and the scam worked flawlessly. Retail prices stayed low, profits soared, and nobody blinked. Least of all the people drinking it. The very group least able to afford being poisoned became the perfect prey. They didn't have the time to squint at microscopic ingredient panels. They didn't have the cash to upgrade to artisanal brands. They didn't have the health margin to absorb decades of chemical-laced filler. Every spoonful of this doctored powder was another quiet tax on poverty, extracted daily through the kitchen cupboard. What makes it even more vicious is how shamelessly the industry dresses up this trap as generosity. Walk into any struggling small-town dollar store and you'll see entire end caps stacked with value roast, classic blend, and economy instant jars the size of paint cans for just $3.99. It looks like mercy. It's bait. Those products exist because corporate planners know older shoppers will keep buying them, thinking they're outsmarting inflation, while the company secretly fattens margins by replacing half the coffee with filler that costs pennies per pound. This isn't a few bad actors. It's the blueprint. In a business where profit hinges on volume, so the only way to make money on cheap coffee is to make sure it's not really coffee at all. Even the name brands are in on it. An FDA inspection report from 2021 revealed that a facility producing store-brand instant coffee for several major grocery chains had quietly slashed its average bean content by 42% over 5 years, while still labeling it 100% coffee. When cornered, the company claimed it was using coffee-derived solids, a legally mushy term that can mean anything from real brewed extract to coffee-flavored cornstarch. They had turned a food into a loophole, a product into paperwork, and the public never knew. And the executives? They don't drink this swill. They sip $18 single-origin pour-overs inside glass offices, while reassuring shareholders that they've streamlined production costs. Meanwhile, the people who built this country, the warehouse veterans, the retired truckers, the grandmothers raising grandkids on dwindling pensions, are swallowing the fallout of that greed every single morning. And that is what makes this scam so toxic. It's not just about fake coffee, it's about a corporate machine that feeds on exhaustion, that counts on you being too tired, too broke, and too trusting to notice they've swapped your morning ritual for floor sweepings in a jar. They know you won't complain, because complaining takes energy. And they've already stolen yours. Health hazards lurking in your cup. The ugliest part of this scam isn't just that they're selling you fake coffee, it's that they're quietly gambling with your health every single morning. And you're the one paying the jackpot in hospital bills, sleepless nights, and organs quietly waving the white flag while you're just trying to make it to lunchtime. They market it as harmless convenience, like some innocent shortcut. But peel back the shiny label, and what stares back at you is a toxic jackpot. Pesticide-laced grain dust, synthetic aroma, chemicals brewed in petrochemical labs, and cancer-linked coloring agents. The kind of stuff that would never get near your mug if honesty, not profit, ran the factory floor. Start with the so-called filler grains. These are the soy grits, barley chaff, and cornmeal that manufacturers shovel into the mix to stretch their bean supply like a con artist watering down whiskey. They don't come from lush golden fields handpicked at dawn. They come from the cheapest commodity bins money can buy, often the reject lots that failed basic quality standards. And cheap here means dirty. Multiple independent audits have shown these low-grade grains are frequently contaminated with pesticide residues, mold spores, and aflatoxins. The class of mold toxins that the World Health Organization bluntly labels as carcinogenic. A 2021 study by the University of Missouri tested bargain instant coffees from U.S. discount stores and found aflatoxin contamination in over 30% of samples, with some levels blasting past the FDA's own safety threshold. That's not wake up. Juice. That's liver damage in a jar, disguised as breakfast. Then comes the cosmetic trick, caramel coloring. When the scorched grain powder comes out too pale to pass as dark roast, factories simply paint it. They douse the granules in caramel color E150C, the same pigment used to make bargain colas look brown instead of ghostly gray. But there's a catch. When caramel color is produced, it can generate 4-methylamidazole, a compound so risky that California's Proposition 65 forces companies to slap a cancer warning on it. Consumer Reports tested U.S. instant coffees back in 2015 and found 4 MEI levels as high as 80 micrograms per serving, 8 times higher than the level many toxicologists consider risky for daily exposure. For older adults already wrestling with inflammation, weakened immune systems, or damaged livers, that's not just a warning label waiting to happen. It's like sprinkling gasoline on a flickering candle and hoping it won't catch. But the danger doesn't stop at what you see. It hits the air you breathe. The synthetic coffee aroma oils sprayed onto the finished powder, the magic perfume that makes your nose swear it's smelling coffee, are often brewed from petroleum-derived chemicals like furfuryl mercaptan and 2,3-butanedione. These aren't cozy scents from nature. They are known respiratory irritants. Industrial safety records link exposure to these chemicals with bronchiolitis obliterans, better known as popcorn lung, a condition where the tiniest airways in your lungs scar over, leaving victims gasping for air like they're forever trying to breathe through a straw. Factory workers handling these same flavor compounds wear respirators. You, on the other hand, just lean over your mug and inhale the steam every morning when your lungs are still raw from sleep. Even the caffeine can turn against you. Because these blends use so little real coffee, manufacturers often spike them with synthetic caffeine sourced from pharmaceutical chemical plants. Synthetic caffeine doesn't ease into your bloodstream the way natural caffeine from beans does. It hits like a sucker punch, flooding your system all at once. It causes sharp heart rate spikes, jitters, blood pressure surges, and insomnia spirals. For younger bodies, maybe that's just an annoying jolt. For older Americans managing hypertension, heart failure, or arrhythmia, it's Russian roulette with every teaspoon. And because manufacturers don't have to disclose the exact dose, one scoop might hit like weak decaf, and the next might slam your nervous system like a triple espresso. Your heart shouldn't have to guess. And then there's the microbial roulette. Instant coffee plants operate on razor-thin margins, and that means sanitation gets treated like an optional accessory. Former workers from facilities in Ohio and Illinois have described the same horrifying routine. Spilled powder is swept off the floor and fed back into production, even if it's been contaminated with warehouse dust, insect fragments, or rodent droppings. The corporate logic is as chilling as it is lazy. The spray drying heat kills everything. Maybe it does. Or maybe you just stirred a few grams of something that crawled across the floor last night into your cup, hoping steam would erase the crime scene. For younger, resilient bodies, maybe this slow drip of poison takes decades to show. But for older Americans, the retired steelworker balancing blood pressure pills, the widowed grandmother managing kidney disease, the veteran living on disability checks, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire you've spent years trying to smother. It accelerates the very decline you're fighting tooth and nail to slow. And the cruelest part? You think it's helping you. You drink it to get going, never realizing it's the reason your body is falling behind. Because what's in that cup isn't nourishment, energy, or comfort. It's chemical debt. And every swallow is a withdrawal from the only account you can't refill. Your health. Why no one stops it? By now you're probably asking the only sane question left. If this instant coffee racket is so rotten, why hasn't anyone slammed the brakes on it? After all, this is America. Land of the FDA, the USDA, and more regulatory initials than a can of alphabet soup. You imagine clean lab coats and clipboards storming into factories, seizing contaminated jars, and marching greedy executives out in handcuffs. But here's the part that curdles your stomach. They aren't stopping it because the system was never designed to. Start with inspections. Or the lack of them. Most instant coffee sold in the US is classified as a low-risk, shelf-stable, dry product. In regulator speak, that means it's considered so harmless that it can skip frequent testing entirely. According to the FDA's own public data, a typical instant coffee plant might be inspected once every 5 to 7 years, and some slip through for even longer. When inspectors do show up, they're almost always announced in advance. Managers polish every inch of the plant like it's a car showroom, pause the real production lines, and stage a clean batch while the clipboards stroll through. The second the door closes, the act ends and the filler sludge starts flowing again. And even if someone actually gets caught, the punishment is laughable. One major private label instant coffee producer in Illinois was cited in 2021 for falsely labeling their product as 100% coffee when it contained less than half real beans. The fine? $8,000. For a company making over $200 million a year, that's not punishment. It's a parking ticket. It's literally cheaper to cheat and pay the fine than to buy real beans. So they cheat. Over and over. Worse, the law itself gives them cover. Food labeling rules in the US are so riddled with loopholes you could drive a semi through. Companies can list ingredients as coffee solids, natural flavors, or aromatic extracts without admitting that those solids are roasted soy powder or those natural flavors were brewed in a petrochemical lab. The FDA only requires the order of ingredients to be accurate. Not the percentage of each. As long as there's a microscopic trace of coffee somewhere, they can slap 100% pure coffee on the label. And the law nods like a half-asleep barista, so nothing changes. Because nothing has to. The watchdogs are broke, the laws are broken, and the only thing really getting protected is corporate profit. The factory owners know it. The regulators know it. And now, so do you. How to spot real coffee and break free. If this all sounds hopeless, if you're staring at every jar in your kitchen like it's a ticking brown time bomb, here's the good news. You can break free. The corporations want you to believe you're trapped, that you have no choice but to choke down their counterfeit sludge and pray. But you're not trapped. You can fight back. And it starts by learning to spot real coffee like your health depends on it, because it does. Rule number 1, stop trusting labels. The words 100% pure coffee mean as much as real crab on fake crab sticks. US law only requires a trace amount of actual coffee, which could mean 5% beans buried in 95% roasted soy grits and corn husks. Treat the label like a liar until proven innocent. Think of it as poker. If they're shouting pure, they're probably bluffing. Your best defense? Buy whole beans. Real beans are almost impossible to fake. You can see their sheen, feel their weight, and smell their richness. Fake instant blends hide behind their anonymity, ground to dust and sealed in jars. Even a $15 blade grinder from Walmart will save you a fortune in medical bills by keeping poison off your shelf. If you must use instant, do the water test. Drop a pinch of powder into room temperature water without stirring. Real coffee floats briefly and slowly darkens the water. Fakes sink like gravel, bleeding dye instantly. If it hits bottom and explodes black in seconds, flush it. And check the price tag. Real instant coffee can't exist for $4.99 a giant jar. If it's too cheap, it's too fake. Stick to roasters with reputations. Pete's, Community Coffee, 8 o'clock. Not mystery value brands that could vanish overnight. Because every real bean you buy is one less coin in the machine draining your health. Stop buying their poison and you stop being their victim. And start being their worst nightmare. An informed customer with nothing left to lose.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of the newest and best videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.